Okay, so I start with saying that we want to develop the code in cloudmesh catalog in GitHub so that we have it shared. This recording may be drastically changing, so just be aware that it could be that tomorrow already certain things become outdated. So I just record this because we got a request for recording. So to find me for development, currently I'm using this repository that is called lashevsk.github. But the nice thing is this is also introduced in our Slack channel. If the very first post actually showcases this. And currently we will be using the NIST directory. Now this is actually empty yet, but this is where our website will be hosted. So please be aware that this is drastically changing. The other repository that we will have is the following. You type in GitHub and cloudmesh catalog. Typically, it doesn't actually show up, but you may actually find GitHub cloudmesh. So this is just followed github.com/cloudmesh. And here you see several of the repositories that we are currently working on. And you see here a particular group is working on MPI programming, and we see a lot of activity there. And here is the catalog, and that's what we will be going to. Now the catalog, and I hope this is big enough for you guys to see. Maybe I should make this a little bit smaller so that it's easier to digest. So when we look at the catalog, we expect there's a README that describes what this is and how do we install this and what we do. And here we are doing the installation, and it's documented here for Macintosh, Linux, and Windows. And we always use a Python virtual environment. If you don't know what a Python virtual environment is, it just creates a local copy of the Python compiler or interpreter, and you can put new stuff in it so that your system-wide Python is not getting affected. In case we make errors, excuse me, in case we make errors, sometimes the compiler breaks and we have to redo the installation. And this mechanism helps us to isolate us from this. So this is really good for developing directly on your machine. And here is really the mechanism on how we install cloudmesh. We need to install a special installer that's called cloudmesh installer. And typically we do a .ssh install, but you can leave the .ssh off, and then you use an HTTPS install from GitHub. And here is the next thing is if you guys need to be downloading the cloudmesh catalog. Go to the directory and do a pip install -e. It's that simple to install. As you can see, this is really nothing. So everybody that knows Python should know what this means. If you don't know what this means, the people that have taught you Python forgot to tell you something about Python, and you should complain to them. If you have any issues understanding about this thing, ask on the Slack or ask me directly. So as I said, you can also do the HTTPS install, but then you need a token from GitHub to do commits. So that's the reason why I sometimes just do SSH. But this only works once you are actually member in the repository. If you're not member here, for example, for installer, you may have to remove the -SSH. And this is what I'm saying is this has to be updated. This may not be exactly accurate. One of the important things is after you actually installed cloudmesh, at this time here, there's actually a message missing. And so maybe I should do that and add to this. This is really important. We have to initiate the program with this command. That's a mandatory activity. It creates some directories on your machine that you will need. Oh, there's the help missing. Sorry. So that's this particular part. I will be hopefully someone can actually share this with us at one point. Now, as part of the catalog, we want to create something that is being recorded, what this particular service does. And here's the example that we currently have for the fields for the catalog. And we also have a registry class, which we have not yet implemented, like this. And then we have, maybe a converter that we use to convert certain things from this format and then into some different output format. This development naturally is not complete. This is where you are contributing to. When you go to cloudmesh catalog, we have different directories. All the basic stuff that you have in a Python package is done down here. We have some scripts that showcase certain usage that will have to be improved. There's an output directory that creates the output of the YAML file in Markdown format. So we can take a look. This is how it may be actually looking as a format. This is formatted towards the use of Hugo in future. So that's the reason why this is so funky looking, because GitHub doesn't speak Hugo. Despite the fact that it has Markdown. The data from this output is taken from this catalog registry. And here you have maybe an entry. And as you can see, this is exactly that particular format. It's in YAML format. If you have any issues for this, just learn up on YAML and how this works. So just very simple. Now, the real program is contained in the cloudmesh directory. This is a unifying repository. That means this can be independently developed from other cloudmesh. So it's actually a namespace. And this is a fairly advanced concept in Python. You don't have to understand this. This is just allows me to have multiple directories that are independently developed by people rather than one big one with 100,000 lines. In there, we have a subdirectory catalog where a command is being defined. And this is the first thing that we start out with. We want to take a look what this command actually looks like and how we can implement this and how can we improve the convenience for the user to use it. And we are using command lines and not just GUI tools. Actually, in fact, we want to integrate this into the web server at one point. But for now, we just do command lines because it's just easier to use. We have a list of available objects, an initialization, a query command, print this information out as table or as JSON. So this is being indicated by the attributes here, where you can put in different formats. But this needs to be improved. This needs to be actually format, and a query needs to be posted along there. We have a print statement that similar to the table prints certain things out. We want to start the service, stop the service, and retrieve the status. And the service is being used while we are using Fast API. And when you look into this particular program, I have designed this very specific way of designing classes that are derived as a plugin command. And you don't have to actually understand how this is being programmed. This is actually fairly sophisticated Python. but I'm making it easy for you to write a documentation. And we are using something like DocOps, which is an IEEE format, to formulate command line programs as a manual page. And then this particular page is being taken and automatically a parsing document is being created that can be integrated into a DICTS infrastructure that showcases the elements up here as arguments. Arguments would be meaning arguments.list. Is list defined as part of the argument? Then fire a rule. If query is defined as an argument, then fire a rule. If query capitalized is still part of the arguments, that's the query string that I've passed along. So this way I can actually pass along nice commands from the command line. Then I can formulate these if conditions here. And as you can see, this is start and stop the server is not yet there. And your first task would be to identify how to start and stop an arbitrary fast API service to do a start and stop. And the details of that service can be defined later. And let me just put up fast API. Let's learn fast API in 1 or 2 minutes. So you go to this website, and there is likely some tutorial somewhere. And it says example, here's an example. That's it. I think everybody of you can understand this. We are introducing some imports. We create in class an object fast API. This would be our URL route for that particular service. So if you contact that particular service and you contact the home page, it prints out hello world. If you are having an item here, they have given an example of how do you get an item. Fast API uses internally Unicorn as the server, and this is what you have to look into. How do you Unicorn? If you you have to look at it, how do you start a server with Unicorn? How do you stop a server with Unicorn? And how do you get the status of the server with Unicorn? That's your first task to find out. That we want to do on Windows, Linux, and Macintosh. And you need to be covering all 3 of them. Typically, that's not an issue. Even if you have a Windows machine, you can look up potentially how to do this in Linux and Windows. And in some cases, you may want to even dual boot and just load Ubuntu 20.04, or one of you guys needs to do this in Ubuntu 20.04. And once you have done it in Ubuntu 20.04, typically it works on Macintosh ones. I have a Mac where I can test this thing out that you develop. Once you have designed the service, you get this particular URL and you can click on it. And this is the item that you can get as part of Fast API. And this is the open API specification that is being rendered in a nice format for you so that you can see how this thing works. And we will be adding documentation. So you will be learning how to use this and expand upon. So that's about Fast API. Now, when it comes down to the catalog, we also have in catalog not only the command, but actually the class that we want to develop or the server. And so in your case, you will have to define a catalog server. So naturally, we want to maybe rename this to catalog server, where there is a start function, a stop function, a status function, maybe a print or a table function that lists how that particular service is being started. And so you would have to write, how to start this. We have a particular way of starting things up, this shell.run command. So that's not in here. So I make an augmentation here. So you guys need to be looking up cloudmesh.common.shell.run. This command, can do, for example, ls. It's a Linux command, and it can nicely return the value, and then we can look up what is in that particular return value. So this is something that you guys can be utilizing here. And as you saw, this previous fast API had actually the command uvcorn with some parameters, that you need to be passing along. Corn. So let me just save this. So this way you can look this up. Yeah. Other things in here is the catalog is already predefined in some form. This is what the previous student did and implemented. So just take a look. And as you can see, this is actually should not be here in this code because it's a library. That should be somewhere else. And you need to be evaluating if this is useful or if it's not useful. Then he has introduced a pickle mixin, and you can evaluate how that works. That's essentially saving the content of that dictionary that you maintain in memory onto a file. I would actually say we can use something that I have written that's called YAMLDB. And that's in GitHub. And if you go there, so you see this YAMLDB documentation. It's not properly documented, really. Is it actually my code? No, this is not even my code. I will figure out the location for my code. Oh, here we go. There it is. So there is a documentation provided on how to do this. And the nice thing is there's a wonderful search function, which allows you to do some more fanciful searches. So let me copy this and put this in here and simply say replace with past. Oh, with YAMLDB. Okay. Okay, so we are very close to finishing. The registry here is not being implemented. It's just simply a copy of the catalog. And unfortunately, the student didn't have time to finish this. So what we would like you to do now is to get in contact with me on Slack and start the discussion of how you can interface. We will be creating in here a project, so in which we put tasks in, and then we call the project nest, and we do an automated Kanban and create a project. And here we create a couple of tasks, learn about GitHub project. In there, you are supposed to be adding your tasks and move them into progress when you're doing it, and move them into to do when you, for example, don't have this. As you can see, I can drag and drop them, and you can convert this here to an issue. And I can convert this. And once I've converted this, I can click on it and go to the site and, for example, put an assigner, put assignments on here for people to work on this. And then you are all assigned now in here. I can create a label to, for example, say, help wanted or question or whatever other thing you want to do. And we can even add a milestone if needed. So there may be lots of questions on this, and we have only 1 minute, so I stop now talking. And I have you talk in case you can hang on. Those that have a different meeting, they should probably attend their other meetings. Okay, I'm finished, so now we are opening for questions again. Now we go from the bottom. Josh, do you have an immediate question? What would be a task that you propose you will be doing? So maybe that's the other thing for next week.
Hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Yeah.
All right. No doubt as of yet. Thank you.
So now I would like you to visit this particular link, which I'm posting in the chat window, and everybody in here will now add a to-do task for them for next week. So I copy this link, I put it into the chat window. Past. And so now you're part of this particular project. So now I would like you to add some stuff. Everybody can do this right now. And I'm now Shamshir. Do you have any questions immediately?
Yeah, so basically this week you want us to figure out how to use Fast API and manage GitHub projects?
Yes, and install cloudmesh catalog and cloud.
Yeah, I think most of us have done that.
And make sure that you're using the virtual environment for your Python to not destroy your environment, your system-wide Python. I would appreciate if you can use Python 3.10 or something better than Python 3.88 because it has too many bugs in it. So we don't want to look backwards too much. So Python 3.9, the default may actually be okay. So and again, those who I've spoken to go now into this thing, and I hope I see tasks popping up. Okay. Sanchit, any questions from you?
No, sir.
Rajni, any questions from you? Any comments from you?
No, Asuch, I think whatever the task you have given and they will do it.
Yeah.
Or if any problem will come, so then they will message in that group. Is it okay, Harsh and Yash?
Yeah.
So I hope everyone got it. What is the task you people have to do?
Yeah. Great.
Yes,
great. Yeah. So, and if you guys don't do the task, I will send Rajni after you. So, Ishan, so what's your take on? So, any questions?
No, sir, no questions.
Aman, is it Aman? Aman, yeah, Aman.
Aman, sir, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was asking, so throughout as the week goes on, we'll be doing tasks which are defined by ourselves, or you will also be telling us what to do?
Yeah,
like
I will be trying to add tasks, but the first thing is I would like that you add these things so that you guys can learn how to use this project management tool, because I'm not sure if anybody has already used, or if everybody has already used this or is aware of this. So I need you guys to learn this because this is part of the communication. So I would like to make sure that in the first week, the communication takes place and you have installed the necessary programs on your computer so that you can make sure to share with us your problems. So if you, for example, have a difficulty installing Python on your computer, you should be sharing this into the cloudmesh catalog Slack so that others can actually help you. And then I will be going ahead, and when I have time, which may not be today, so this week is extremely tight for me. I will be putting in, hopefully as quickly as possible, some tasks in it, but I don't think it will happen before tonight. And the other thing is I'm completely unavailable Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I don't have cell phone, I don't have internet, I will be completely unavailable. So, yeah.
It's also one last thing, sir. I am unable to input my task of what to do.
Oh,
Yes, sir. Same doubt from my end.
good. That's exactly why I have this, because we want to make sure that you're all here in the GitHub repository. So Josh has not accepted my invitation, my pending invitation.
Oh, I'll do so immediately, sir. Sorry.
Rajni, I don't have you in here either. Would you like me to add you there?
Yes, you can add
What's your GitHub ID now? So you see my
Rajni_CS, I think, or same email ID.
_CS.
CS, yes, correct.
It doesn't find it on GitHub.
Okay. So otherwise, yeah, you can use my email ID, Rajni33871.
Rajni double
3 numeric 33
3
87.
87.
Yes, @gmail.com.
It's not there.
No, you have written wrong, Rajni. W. After I, you put W. So there is no W. Yes, 3 also, one
You
more.
tell me, you will be emailing me your GitHub ID, and then I add you. This is not a valid GitHub ID. So you will tell me. It's just email me, then I do it later.
Yeah, sure. Fine.
So we have, let me just go to the list. We have Josh in here. We have Sanchit in here. We have Ishan. We have Harsh. We have 5 hum something. So
Shamshir. Yeah.
I would recommend that, just similar to me and others, you go into Avatar and use your full name. If you don't mind, if you want to keep it this way, that's fine. But remember, when we go into the tasks, into the project, I know your first name. And we can go to the task, and I, for example, can assign this particular task to you here. And when I assign a task to you, I get presented a particular list. But who knows who Squid Bob is?
Sorry, sir. I'll change my name.
So I have no idea. So I can't do anything. So you will be lucky. I will be not assigning you any tasks. But then you will also not come into the paper, because, and then you wonder, why don't I get any tasks? Because I don't know who you are, right? So like, for example, Harsh Singh has a different name, but luckily Harsh Singh is being added here, so it's possible for me to identify who he is. Yeah, but 5Hem5H33R is a little bit complicated, for me to remember, and so forth. Okay, so let's just take a look at your tasks.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you. I still have not been added. I sent you the GitHub ID on Slack, as you mentioned.
Let me just take a look at Slack. Who just, wait a second, I'm just getting this out here out of the way. Who just spoke on?
Aman, sir, it's me.
Did you send it me privately or in a general channel?
Privately, sir.
Oh, I see now. Yeah, because the window was too busy, I couldn't see it. Okay. Okay, Aman, I send it to you. Naturally, because you have all write access, I recommend that when you check out this thing, you don't use the HTTP link, but you use the SSH link, and that's easier. But this does require that you upload the SSH key to the GitHub repository. I have other documentation in case this would be problematic for you, or someone could be making a recording how to do that, or so, but it's trivial. Look it up, how to upload an SSH key to GitHub and upload your SSH key. If you are on a Windows machine, please add a task to you that you must do first before you do anything. Install a tool that's called Git Bash. And in Git Bash, there is a command that's called ssh-keygen. And I can point you to documentation on what to do next there, if absolutely needed, but I think it's self-explanatory. Ask questions on Slurm, on Slack, and I will try to answer them as they come in. And naturally, if you guys know the answer, just please go ahead and answer it so that I don't have to do that. Who is familiar? So we have a feature in Zoom where you can raise hands in the participation list. Can you guys raise your hand if you don't know SSH keys? Or maybe there's a yes/no question. So the people that raise their hands don't know how to use SSH keys. Okay, it looks like that no one knows how to use SSH keys. And that's a pretty big surprise to me. But Sanchit has indicated that he knows how to do that. Why don't you come up with the documentation? Put this on your task list. Those people who know how to use SSH keys, please put that on there. One thing please do not do is do not document how to use poo-tty. We do not want to use poo-tty because it's a waste of time on anybody's life expectation to even use that tool. Windows comes with a built-in, in Git Bash, comes with a built-in SSH command that you ought to use instead of poo-tty. Okay, so again, if you don't know how to use it, ask a question on Slack, and then other people who know about it will tell you how to do it. Okay, and you can even meet with each other, I guess, in offline videos. You don't have to have me all the time with me. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know how your university operates in this time of COVID. I typically say isolate, isolate, isolate. Everything can be done through video. This way you don't get into danger of your health just while working on this project. Other questions. So have you now verified that everybody can get access to the GitHub other than Rajni? Okay. So I will be organizing and adding possibly some other columns. Make sure that you do this. And paper writing will be done in Overleaf, which is a LaTeX. And can everybody raise their hand now if you know LaTeX? One, okay. So if there's a question concerning LaTeX or so, Harsh and I will be able to answer these questions. So ask them in, again, in the cloudmesh catalog initially, and specific LaTeX questions we may move into a different channel. So now that you have heard this presentation, is there already someone who has decided that they no longer want to participate in this project? Now, instead of asking that question, I would like to ask the opposite question. Are you likely to continue working in this? Raise your hand if you like to continue working in this project. Because if no one wants to participate in this, I will be canceling that effort. So it looks like that everybody but Rajni wants to participate. so I'm just kidding. And so we will have this effort. So great. So we have no no issue. And then again, for the person with a fast copying project, we have tomorrow a meeting. And the meeting tomorrow will be very technical because we have done all the administrative work here already. So, by the way, you could be preparing yourself. Let me see. So, oops, cloudmesh, GitHub. So, we find this now in here. Let's see if we have. There's a program that's called cloudmesh run. And I just started wildly, like a couple of days ago, putting some content together. And that's just a very primitive start, similar to the other command we have here. Run the server, do the server start, stop, status. That's the same as for the other group. But here we also need to be looking into starting the Redis service. And then a file transfer is, for example, a job that we submit to a queuing system. And then we just put the job on the queuing system, and then we go through and run this. Now, that's already being done by many people, but we want to have 4.5 million jobs that we would be translating here. I mean, and at one point we want to optimize and run several of these jobs together while doing certain optimizations on them, such as optimizing the file transfer. So I will go with you in tomorrow, but you can already look at this. cloudmesh-run is something that I started. This probably is not working, so don't expect anything to work. Look over this first, and then you figure out if you can understand what I do or not. The other thing is I would like to encourage you to use PyCharm. Who of you guys is using PyCharm as their main editor for Python? Who of you guys is using Visual Code as their main editor? Who of you is using Emacs as the main editor? And who was not covered yet by any of my questions, and you have another editor that you use? Okay, so then we covered that too. So the best editors is PyCharm. Second best is probably Visual Code and then followed by Emacs. For LaTeX, Emacs is one of the better editors, but you can also do Emacs, LaTeX editing in PyCharm. I would assume that there's a plugin for Visual Code, but because we're using Overleaf, you don't have to install anything. You just have two things. One of the things I've actually noticed is that sometimes the laptop screens are too small. And so it may be better to have an external monitor sometimes to just do things or use on your desktop. I, for example, got myself for this particular work, 2 4K monitors, very cheap 4K monitors. And so I'm running 2 4K monitors at the same time, in addition to my laptop monitor for email reading. So this works out quite well because I can put everything on the screen. So it looks like a control center in my office, if you so want. So that works actually well. Any other questions? Because I would like to. Oh, sorry, Aman.
Yes, sir. You said that 8 GB of RAM would not be sufficient to run PyCharm. Then, but you suggested in this meeting that 8 will be fine to do all the work on PyCharm. So I can shift to PyCharm.
Do you have Windows as operating system?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what I've observed is on my Macintosh, when I run PyCharm and Google Chrome at the same time, I'm using 8.1 gigabyte of memory. So that means it's impossible to do anything else, really. So it's up to you to make sure that you select the appropriate editor that you can do. If you will, for example, have that limitation and you want to use Visual Code because it fits on your machine, then use that. On Windows, I don't know how much space it actually takes. It may take less space. So what I would do is start Zoom, start Google Chrome or Firefox or some browser. Maybe there's an Internet Explorer on Windows, kind of a thing. And well, the other thing, these three programs and PyCharm, right? PyCharm, Zoom, and a web browser. That's typically what you need during online sessions. See how much memory you use, and then you adapt appropriately. If PyCharm does take too much memory, you can use a completely different editor for meetings.
Okay, sir.
Any other questions? I can give an introduction to PyCharm if needed next week. If you let me just pop up PyCharm. Let me take a little bit of time. So I'm just popping up PyCharm. And as you can see, it takes a long time for PyCharm to start up because they're using Java as backend. And what you and one of the problems I haven't done is I have a difficult time with black backgrounds and white fonts. And the problem here is that this will not share properly. So I always constantly open up a new editor. So I apologize for that. Let me try that again. So when you share stuff with me, figure out how to change the theme in PyCharm so that you have a white background and dark font in the foreground. Then I can read it. This I can't hardly read typically when it's being shared. And one of the things that you can do when you're in a code, for example, you can locate your code that you currently are editing. I'm editing quite a bit here. So you can maybe get the code, and if you right click on the code, there's something called reformat code, and we want to always do this. And the reason why we want to use this PyCharm, because then all code is uniformly reformatted based on the PyCharm rules, and you guys can reformat this similar in Visual Code. We just need to be figuring out how the settings are. So that's up to you to identify. If you notice that every single line is being changed by you but you only change a single line, don't commit to the repository. The other thing is when we do code development, commit often and push often, and don't just develop for 3 weeks and then you push and then you figure out that 5 other people have done some other stuff that conflicts with you. You will never finish anything. So communication is really essential. Let other people know you're developing this or that, and then people can work. As for acknowledgement, because GitHub has so let me share my GitHub page again. GitHub has a contributor page. So when we go to this web page here, and we want to see who contributed, for example, we can go to Insights, and we can see the contributors. If you're not listed here in this contributors page, you will not be acknowledged. Obviously, because they haven't done anything, neither documentation nor anything, right? So, and the same thing here. Now, if you now take a look at the catalog, and we go there, so there are hopefully other people than me doing some stuff, right? So I can go to Insights and I can see the contributors, and there you can see the level of contribution. So there's a lot of stuff being done by this person and a lot of stuff done by me. And as you can see, there's no development going on anymore there. And if you compare the overall contributions, here's the same scale. See? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions before we close? Okay, then we should be finishing the meeting now. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rajni, for enabling this. We have to give her a big applause for this. This was really great, and I'm looking forward working with you together. Let's achieve something great. Take a look at the providers and figure out, if you find AI services. Okay, talk to you guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.